In January 2024, 12 experienced climbers set out to conquer one of the most treacherous peaks in the Kachakar Mountains. 3 days later, only 3 returned. 9 people vanished without a trace, as if they never existed at all. January 12th, morning. Perfect weather conditions. The group consisted of doctors, engineers, teachers, all experienced mountaineers, all prepared, or so they thought. They carried state-of-the-art equipment, GPS trackers, satellite phones, everything needed for a successful summit attempt. The forecast was clear for the next 72 hours. Local guides had given them the green light. Everything pointed to a routine, albeit challenging, expedition. Day 1 went exactly as planned. They made excellent progress, covering more ground than expected. Camp 1 was established at 2,400 meters. Spirits were high. Communications with base camp were crystal clear. One of the climbers even posted a photo on social media that evening, caption reading, "Day 1 success, summit tomorrow." That photo would become evidence in a case that continues to baffle investigators. Day 2, an unexpected blizzard hit with ferocious intensity. Weather stations in the valley never predicted it. Meteorologists would later describe it as a phantom storm, appearing on no radar, mentioned in no forecast. Communication was lost. The satellite phones went dead. GPS signals scattered across impossible locations. And then, silence. Complete and total silence. January 14th, evening. 3 figures stumbled down from the mountain. They were found by a local farmer, wandering in a daze near the tree line, miles off the designated trail. Hypothermic, dehydrated, in shock. Their clothes were intact, no signs of avalanche trauma, no injuries consistent with a fall. But their eyes, witnesses said, their eyes looked like they'd seen something beyond comprehension. When authorities finally got them to speak, what they told them made no sense. Nothing matched. It was as if they'd each experienced a completely different expedition. The first survivor, a 34-year-old female surgeon from Istanbul, insisted that when the storm hit, the group made a rational decision to split. 9 continued to the summit. The 3 of us turned back. It was a tactical choice. We were the least experienced in high-altitude climbing. The others, they were confident. They had done this before. Last time we saw them, around 2 p.m. on day 2, they were setting up camp at 3,200 meters. Everything was normal. They waved at us. They were smiling. The storm hadn't even started yet when we left them. But that's not what the second survivor said. A 41-year-old engineer. He told a completely different story to police. "We didn't decide to split up. That never happened. We all camped together that night at 2,800 meters. I remember because I helped secure the tents against the wind. We ate dinner together. Freeze-dried beef stew. We talked about reaching the summit the next day. I went to sleep around 10 p.m. When I woke up at midnight to check the weather, 9 people were just gone. Their tents, their backpacks, their climbing gear, everything, gone. Only footprints remained in the snow, leading upward into the storm, into conditions where no sane person would climb. The prints looked wrong somehow. Too evenly spaced, too perfect, like they were walking in formation." The third survivor, a 26-year-old biology teacher, told investigators something that made them question his mental state entirely. "We saw something up there, on the second night. Lights in the sky, but not stars, not helicopters. They moved in patterns, geometric patterns, and sounds like metal scraping against ice. But there was no metal, nothing that could make that sound. Our expedition leader, the commander, he seemed to know what it was. He gathered 9 people and told us 3 to descend immediately. 'You 3 go now,' he said. 'Don't look back. We'll handle this.' I asked him what was happening. He just stared at me and said, 'Some mountains aren't meant to be climbed.' But here's the thing, detective. We didn't have a commander. We didn't have an expedition leader. We were a group of friends, equals. So who was that person giving orders?" 3 witnesses. 3 completely different stories. Same mountain, same time period, completely incompatible accounts. Which one is real? Could all 3 be lying? Could all 3 be telling their truth? Search and rescue teams were deployed at first light on January 15th. 150 personnel, mountain rescue specialists from across the country, thermal imaging cameras, infrared drones, search dogs trained to find people buried under avalanches. 2 weeks of intensive, around-the-clock searching. The rescue team leader, a veteran with 20 years of mountain rescue experience, held a press conference on day 5 of the search. His face was pale, his hands trembling slightly as he spoke. "In 20 years, I've never seen anything like this. We've recovered bodies from avalanches, found lost hikers weeks after they disappeared. But this is different. 9 people, hundreds of pounds of equipment, vanished. No tracks, no footprints, no fabric scraps, no food wrappers, no human waste. Nothing. We've covered every square meter of their planned route and a 5-kilometer radius beyond it. It's like they evaporated into thin air. The search dogs, highly trained animals with success rates over 90%, couldn't pick up a scent. They would reach certain points on the mountain and simply stop, refusing to go further. Some would whine and pull their handlers back. One dog sat down at 3,000 meters and howled for 10 minutes straight before having to be carried down. Thermal imaging showed nothing. No heat signatures, no disturbed snow patterns, no evidence of human presence. It defied every protocol, every procedure, every law of physics and logic they knew. An expert mountaineer brought in to consult on the case analyzed the situation for the media. People can get lost in mountains, absolutely. Weather changes, accidents happen, avalanches occur. But 9 people simultaneously? With all their gear? With GPS devices and emergency beacons? An avalanche would leave debris fields. A crevasse fall would leave rope marks, disturbed snow. A fall from a cliff would leave impact evidence. What we're seeing here, or rather what we're not seeing, this violates everything we know about mountain accidents. It's as if they stepped through a door and the door closed behind them. But as the investigation deepened and detectives began examining evidence more carefully, disturbing details emerged that transformed this from a tragic accident into something far stranger. The missing climbers' cell phones, all 9 of them, were tracked using cellular tower triangulation and GPS backup data. Their last signals, sent at various times on day 2, didn't come from the summit route. They pinged from a completely different slope on the eastern face of the mountain, an area known to be impossible to reach from their location without descending first and then climbing for 2 days in the opposite direction. Some signals came from locations at 4,200 meters, higher than the actual summit of the mountain they were climbing. Meteorological records from 3 different weather stations were pulled and analyzed. They showed no storm occurred that night. Clear skies, calm winds averaging 12 kilometers per hour, temperature minus 8 degrees Celsius, perfect climbing conditions. Yet all 3 survivors described a blizzard so severe they could barely see their hands in front of their faces. Either the survivors were lying, or they experienced weather that somehow affected only them, invisible to every scientific instrument in the region. The survivors' watches, analog and digital, each showed a different time when they were found. The female survivor's watch read 6:47 p.m. The male engineer's watch read 8:23 a.m. the next day. The biology teacher's digital watch displayed 11:34 p.m., but the date showed January 16th, 2 days after they were found. 14 hours separated the times. All 3 insisted they descended together, arrived together, never separated. So how could their watches show different times? The watches were examined by forensic experts. None had been tampered with. None showed signs of damage or malfunction. And perhaps strangest of all, investigators examining documentation of the expedition found something that made their blood run cold. In one of the group photos taken at base camp on January 11th, the day before they began climbing, there were 13 people. 13. The photograph was high resolution, taken with a professional camera. 12 faces were easily identified, matched to the 12 registered climbers. But there was a 13th person, standing slightly behind the group, partially obscured by shadow. Investigators showed the photo to all 3 survivors separately. None could identify the person. None remembered a 13th member. When shown the photo, the biology teacher became violently ill and had to be sedated. He kept repeating, "That's who gave the orders. That's the commander." But he couldn't describe the person's face, couldn't remember their name, couldn't recall a single conversation with them. Digital analysis of the photo showed no evidence of manipulation or editing. The metadata was intact. The 13th person was there when the photo was taken. But who were they? Where did they go? Were they among the missing 9, or did they never climb at all? Investigators interviewed everyone who had contact with the group before the expedition. Equipment rental shops, hotel staff, local guides, restaurant workers. Nobody remembered a 13th person. Receipts showed purchases for 12. Hotel records showed 6 double rooms, 12 climbers, always 12, except in that one photograph where there were clearly 13. 1 year later, on January 14th, 2025, exactly 1 year after the 3 survivors descended, a local shepherd was guiding his flock across the lower slopes of the mountain. It was evening, around 7 p.m., snow falling lightly. He reported seeing 9 silhouettes descending the mountain in single file. Perfect formation, moving steadily despite the steep terrain and darkness. He called out to them, thinking they might be climbers in distress. They didn't respond, didn't acknowledge him in any way, just kept descending in that perfect, measured formation. He immediately called the police. Officers arrived within 40 minutes. They brought searchlights, thermal equipment, everything needed for a rescue operation. When they arrived at the location where the shepherd had seen the figures, there were no footprints, no traces in the fresh snow, nothing. The shepherd insisted on what he saw. 9 people, I counted them. Moving down the mountain, they were there. He passed a lie detector test. He had no reason to fabricate the story. He was a respected member of the community, with no history of mental illness or attention-seeking behavior. Police expanded the search area, thinking perhaps the climbers had descended a different route. They searched for 3 days, found nothing. Not a single sign that anyone had been on that mountain in months. The case remains open. The 9 missing climbers have never been found. No bodies, no equipment, no closure for the families who still, after all this time, hold on to hope that somehow, somewhere, their loved ones are alive. Theories have emerged, of course. Some rational, some less so. Avalanche burial so complete that no traces remained. Abduction by a person or group unknown. Mass hallucination among the survivors caused by altitude sickness. A military operation gone wrong, covered up by authorities. Parallel dimensions. Alien abduction. Time slips. Underground cave systems that swallowed them whole. Each theory has its believers, and each has been investigated and found wanting. The 3 survivors have never changed their stories. Even under intense interrogation, even when confronted with contradictions, they maintain their accounts exactly as first told. Psychologists have evaluated them. None show signs of deception. None appear to be lying. They believe what they're saying, which somehow makes it all more terrifying. 9 people, 1 winter night, an endless mystery. Some mountains give back their climbers eventually. Bodies preserved in ice, found decades later, reuniting families with their lost loved ones. Some mountains never give back what they take, keeping their secrets locked in stone and snow forever. And some mountains, perhaps, only give back questions. Questions that unravel the more you pull at them. Questions that lead not to answers, but to deeper, darker uncertainties. The Khachkar Mountains stand silent, indifferent, eternal. Whatever happened on that peak in January 2024 remains known only to the mountain itself, and to 9 people who walked into a storm that may never have existed, and never walked out. This is Base Camp 3, elevation 3,800 meters. Can anyone hear this transmission? There's something up here with us, moving toward our position. This isn't possible. Nothing can survive at this altitude. The temperature alone should... Wait, oh God, it's opening the... No, this can't be real. We need immediate extraction. Repeat, immediate extraction. It knows the light is... We have to... Sarah, don't look at it. Don't... Please, someone, anyone, nothing can survive at this altitude. That radio transmission was recovered from equipment left at base camp. It was recorded on January 13th at 3:47 a.m. The voice has never been identified. None of the 12 registered climbers were named Sarah. The mountain keeps its secret still.